Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? I hope all of you are doing fine. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and as we were discussing section 8, so today we are going to start on with section 8.2. But before I go there, let me remind you guys that I have a little surprise for you guys. And like I told you guys in my previous video as well, I've launched my own topical workbooks for paper 1 and paper 2. Plus, in order to complete the series, I have some study notes or revision notes for you guys as well. So as you can see, I've included around 20-25 questions for each subtopics from the syllabus. These are all camera style questions. These are all necessary for your practice. So if you want to get a boost up for A star for the upcoming exams from May-June 2023 and onwards, then it is a must for you guys to buy this bundle, this power bundle, and give yourself a boost up. So as you can see, I've included mark scheme for each topic as well, and I've carefully calibrated the mark scheme or the answers to match those of the Cambridge mark scheme. I have not missed out any steps in these answers. All the answers are included with steps, and wherever possible some explanation as well, where they are not simply just direct answers. Plus, I have done the same with paper 2 as well, as you can see, for topics from section 7.1 till section 10. And also paper 2 booklet also have mark scheme or answer key along with it. And then lastly we have topical basically study notes or self-study notes or revision notes, whatever you want to call it, for all the sections compiled into the same book. So I'm going to drop the WhatsApp number in the description below. Don't forget to place an order right now. And if you order right now, if you are an early bird, you are going to get a special gift along with your order as well. So back to our topic. So today we are going to start section 8.2, that is arrays. An array is a data structure containing several elements of the same data type, which can be accessed by using the same name or the same identifier name, or in other words you can say that an array is a memory space which can hold multiple values of the same data type. Now, in contrast to a variable can only hold or store a single value, whereas an array can store hundreds and thousands of values without a problem. The position of each element in an array is identified using the array's index. Now there are two things about an array that you should remember. One is the index or the position, indexing, and the second is the concept of dimension. So dimension basically means that whether your array has a single row or column or multiple rows and multiple columns. If your array has a single row and multiple columns, or a single column and multiple rows, if any one of either rows or column is a single entity, then we call that as a one-dimensional array. And if we have multiple rows and multiple columns, then we can say it is a two-dimensional array. Now each position of an array or each member of an array is given a specific index number or a sequence number, if you want to call it that way, and by the use of that sequence number or index number, the position of each element in an array can be identified. So all the data items or all the members in an array use the same identifier, means they have the same name, and you can access them by using the same name. Whereas in order to distinguish between them, we use the different we use their index number or their position number. In this way, list of items can be stored, searched, and put into an. The first element of an array can have an index of 0 or 1. Most programming languages automatically set the first index of an array to 0, whereas normally when we are writing pseudocode, then we prefer to have the starting position as 1. But then again, it depends to the examiner's instruction. If the examiner has instructed you to make an array from 0th position or print an array from 0th position, then you do that. Otherwise, it's up to you whether you make an array starting at 0 position or starting at 1th position. There are no deduction of marks for that as long as there are no instructions specified. So like I've just told you before as well, array can be one-dimensional or two-dimensional, whereas a one-dimensional array looks just like a list. Below is an example of a list with 8 elements in it, where the first element has an index of 0. Basically this part, just this part would be your array. In the memory, actually these headings would not be included. I've only listed them as an explanation or reference for you guys. Similarly, this indexing column would not be there as a part of an actual array. Again, I have simply added this so you can understand the concept of indexing. So you can say that an array can either look like this, for example, subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, and so on. Means it can have one column and multiple rows, or it can have a single row and multiple columns, for example like this. And so on. Okay, if the examiner draws a diagram of an array and he has included an index column or an index row, always do not count it when you are counting the members of your array. The actual members of your array are just these 8 subject names, and that's it. Like I said before, the array can start from 0 to 7, or you can go from 1 to 8. Now how do you declare an array? Again, we use the keyword declare, then we write down the identifier, means the name of an array. We put colons, we write down the keyword array, then square bracket. Always remember, arrays would always have a square bracket right besides the name. And then in the square bracket we write the lower bound, colon upper bound means the start number and the end number. For example, this array has a start position of 0 and the end position of 7. And square bracket close, write down the keyword of, and then write down the data type. For example, for this array I can write it like this: declare, the name is subjects, and the start position is 0, end position is 7. Or alternatively, I can write it like from 1 till 8. Of, and then the data type. Since these are names, so the data type would be string, like this. You can declare an array like this. Each position in an array can be filled by defining the value at each index position. When you create an array, it is empty, it is blank. So one by one you have to populate values into it or write values into it. Like for example, if you have this array in having these values and you want to change a single value of an array, like you want to overwrite mathematics and change it to add maths, then you can simply write it like this: add maths position 4, because mathematics is stored at 4th index number, assignment operator, and then write down the new value, add maths in this case. And don't forget to write down quotation marks if you're storing a string value. And if you have to populate all the values, then you can use a for loop, and the loop is quite simple. Simply open a loop for count 0 to 7 because this array goes from 0 till 7th position. If we had from 1 till 8, then we would write down for count 1 to 8. Now what you need to do is print enter next value, and then we use the keyword input, the name of array, square bracket, and count means the name of your counter variable, and then next count. Simply these 4 lines are strong enough. This for loop is strong enough to populate any one-dimensional array in the world. You simply would have to change the name of according to your array and the range, and that's it. There's nothing else you need to populate an array. And if you have to output a value from stored in an array, let's suppose if you have to output a single value, for example, you want to display this English on screen, so simply write the keyword print and then write down the array name, and in the square bracket write down the index number for that particular item. Like for English it is 2, so we write 2, and on screen you are going to see something like this, means the value that is stored over here. And if you have to display or write all the members, all the values stored in an array, simply again use a for loop for count 0 to 7 or 1 till 8. Simply write down the keyword print, write down the array name, subjects, open a square bracket, write down the name of your counter variable, next count. These 3 lines would print all these 8 members or all these 8 names one after the other on your screen. If you have to use the same for any other array, simply change the array name and the range, and that's it. You can print any array in the world using these 3 lines. Okay. Next we have two-dimensional arrays, and like we discussed before, two-dimensional arrays have multiple rows and multiple columns, so they look more just like a table. And the first element is located at position 0 0, whereas if the examiner has restricted you to start at position 1, then it would be located at 1 1. Now how do you declare a two-dimensional array? You use the keyword declare, and then you write down its name, and then you write down the keyword after colon, you write down the keyword array, then you write the raw minimum and raw maximum, comma, column minimum, column maximum, square bracket close, off, and then you write the data type. Don't worry if you don't understand this. I'm going to show you an example so you can understand it better. Like for example, this is a two-dimensional array of subjects and teachers. Okay, so let's name it subjects and teachers. So if I have to declare this array, I'll write it like this. I'll write down the keyword declare, the name of array, that is subjects and teachers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put columns, then I'm going to write down array, square bracket open, and what I'm going to write, the minimum value for raw. So what is the minimum value for raw over here? 0. And from 0 the rows are going till 7, comma, the minimum number for column, that would be again 0, and I only have 2 columns, so that means the first column is 0, the second is 1. So like this I've declared this array. Now again keep in mind that this top row is just for your reference. This would not be in actual memory space, or this would not be actually stored. Your array would only be stored like this. it would only be having 16 members because you have 8 rows and 2 columns, so 8 2s are 16. And since these are both names, so I'll write the data type after of keyword, that would be string. So 2D, if you want to populate a 2D array, you can do that by loops, or if you want to write just one value, then you can also do like this input. If you have to write a single value in a 2D array, let's suppose you have to change this name, change this name to something else, or you have to change this name to something else. Okay, so first of all, let's find out the index number for this. The row number for this is 2 and the column number is 1. This is 0th column and this is 1 column if we are starting at 0 0 position. So input the name of array, square bracket open, and which value you have to change. First of all, write down the raw value, that is 2, and the column value, that is 1, and then put assignment operator and change the name, let's suppose from Sajid to, let's suppose, Tim. And this is how you write you input a single value into a 2D array. If you have to input multiple values, again we are going to use a for loop because that is best for this kind of job. But this time, since we have multiple rows and multiple columns, so we are going to use 2 for loops inside each other, or a nested for loop. And first of all, we include the counter for column. For counter column 0 to, how many columns we have? 2, so we go from 0 till 1. For, and then we open another loop for rows, for populating rows, for raw number, and the raw numbers are from 0 to 7. As you can see over here, rows number are from 0 to 7, whereas column numbers are 0 and 1. What I am going to do now, this prompt is optional, it's up to you whether you give it or not. But for the sake of your Cambridge exams, it's better if you do that. Input, now we have to write the name of our array, 2-dimensional array, subjects and teachers, and we have to write a raw, because raw over here in this pseudocode, raw number or raw counter is written first and then the column counter. Square bracket close. You have to, now since you opened the raw counter, the for loop for populating rows at second position, then that means we have to close it first. And since we opened the for loop for populating columns in the first position, we have to close it in the end, like this. Always remember the you can do the reverse as well. Some books highlight the method for writing a nested for loop in reverse, like they start like they open the raw loop first and then the column loop. But in the Cambridge examination, the examiner wants you to follow this pattern, although technically that shouldn't be wrong as well. If you open it, basically works, so it is followed by many books, so it should be fine. But nonetheless, if you want to be 100% sure of gaining marks, then follow these 1 2 3 4 5 6. These 6 lines are the code to populate, to input values into any 2-dimensional array that the examiner might throw at you. You would simply have to change the name over here and the range of column and the range of rows. That's it. Similarly, if you have to display data stored at a particular location, simply use the print keyword and the name of array, and in the square bracket simply give the coordinates, the xy values or the row and column values for that particular member or spot. For example, if you have to if you write this subjects and teacher 4-1, then this would means 4 and 1. This would print Salim on screen. And if you have to print all the values, again go for the same. Let's say you have to print all the members of a 2D array on the screen, then go do it like this: for column 0 to 1, for row 0 to 7, print the name of the 2D array, these 5 lines would print any 2D array in the world onto your screen. You just have to change the column and row range and the name of the array. Now this would give you the result like this. First of all, it is going to column 0, and then from column 0 it would go to row 0. So over here, what is the value of 0 column and 0 row? Chemistry. And then it is going to print 0 column and row 2. Then similarly 0 column and 3rd row. Maths, I'm just writing it short. And then physics, and then Urdu. And once it has printed all the rows for the first column, it would start at 0th position for the second column. And as you can see, regardless of the path selected, it has produced the same array, the same 2-dimensional array or the same table as the one given in question over here. And this is basically what a 2D array would look like in memory. Like I was telling you guys, this first row of headers and this first column of index numbers are just for your reference, just for your understanding. They would not be a part of the actual array when you print it on screen, and or when you print a value, or when you input values to it. So do not count it as one. Like, do not count it that this is the 0th position, this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Do not write it like 0 till 8, and do not write it like 1 2. Do not include it in column count as well, like 0 1 2. Do not write it like 0 to 2. That would be wrong. Right, only count this one, and only count these rows. These ones I'm going to highlight them for you. Okay, as only these are an actual part of your 2D array, and the ones I am not highlighting, they are not a part of your array. They are just for reference, so they should not be taken as an actual part of an array. Otherwise you are going to mess up your code and you are going to lose your precious marks. Okay, and this concludes our topic of arrays. Now I hope you have understood today's lecture. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions, and if you have not already, then go down below, get the WhatsApp number and book your order now. The 3 books in series, they are a must to have for an A star in your upcoming examinations. Please let me know your comments, do leave them down below, and I'll see you guys in another video very soon inshallah, and we'll wind up section 8. Thank you very much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.